Now I will explain to you Freud's psychodynamic theory regarding personality. So, one of the most famous quotes by Sigmund Freud is this right here: "The mind is like an iceberg." And what did he mean by that? Well, he meant that we have material that is above the surface that we are aware of, and we are conscious of that material. But most of the material is beneath the surface, out of our awareness. And Freud called that the unconscious. And he coined the term the unconscious. And this is one of his most important contributions to the field of psychology, is that he coined the term the unconscious. And the concept of the unconscious is such an important part of psychology. And of course, we still refer to this concept all the time today. Now, Freud divided the personality into these three components, and they're called the psychic structures: the id, superego, and the ego. Now, the id operates 100% at the unconscious level, so we're not aware of it. And Freud said that within the id is held our sexual and aggressive tendencies. The id likes immediate gratification, and it operates according to the pleasure principle. Now, another structure is called the superego. And the easiest way to think about this structure is that it's another word for your conscience. What is your conscience? Your conscience is that voice inside your head that tells you what's right and what's wrong. And where does your conscience come from? Your conscience is the internalization of, for most people, your parents' voices, or it could be whoever raised you, whoever taught you right from wrong. And you then internalize that voice, and that is called your conscience. And the superego operates according to the morality principle. So it's concerned with what is right and what is wrong. The last structure is called the ego. So this operates at the conscious level, and it's a very rational, logical structure. It operates according to the reality principle, and it's the negotiator between the id and the superego, because the id and the superego are often in conflict with each other. So the ego's job is to be the negotiator or the mediator between these two structures and try to figure out a socially acceptable compromise whenever these two structures are in conflict. An easy way to think about it is that the id is kind of like the devil, whispering in your ear and tempting you to do things that maybe they're illegal or they're morally wrong or it might hurt someone, but it gives you pleasure. So the id is tempting you. It's like the devil. The superego is like the angel whispering in your ear and telling you, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's morally wrong. So it's helpful to think of it that way. Or you could also think of the ego as kind of being like the referee. The ego acts as a referee between the id and the superego. So here's the id, all this kind of like primal aggressive energy, and then the superego is more angelic, and then the ego is like the referee between the two. So let's just return back to this diagram here. Now that we've gone through the three psychic structures, it's helpful to refer back. So again, you see that the id, see the way it's drawn? It operates 100% at the unconscious level. So that means we're not aware of it. All right, now the superego operates at both levels. So sometimes it's at the unconscious level, but sometimes it's at the conscious level. So that means that sometimes you are aware of that voice inside your head telling you what's right and wrong. And then also the ego operates at both levels as well. Okay, so remember the id operates according to the pleasure principle. It holds sex drives and aggressive tendencies. The superego operates according to the morality principle. It's basically about what's right and wrong. And then the ego operates according to the reality principle, and it's the mediator or the negotiator between the superego and the id. And that's Freud's psychodynamic personality theory.